I'm sorry, Mr. Holloway. I'm sorry for what I'm doing to you, and I hope you can find a way to stop this that I couldn't. Please forgive me. Laughter in the dark. I opened the front door that morning and found a package sitting on my doormat. A heavy cardboard box, roughly twice the size of a shoebox, wrapped in so much packing tape it looked like someone had tried to mummify it. Taped to the top was an envelope addressed to me in neat, unhurried handwriting. Silas Holloway. No return address. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of typed text, signed simply S. I took the package inside, closed the door, and sat at my desk with a letter and a knife. Mr. Holloway, I found your blog 3 weeks ago, and I've read every post twice. I hope you can forgive me for what I'm about to do, but I'm running out of time and I don't know where else to turn. I've never believed in the supernatural. I'm a high school chemistry teacher, for God's sake. But what's happening in my house has pushed me well beyond the boundaries of rational explanation. Let me start from the beginning. My niece, Mary, stayed with me for a few weeks while her parents renovated their house. Lovely girl, 6 years old, bright, gentle. I was glad she was here. We bonded over picture books, baking, thunderstorms. It started well enough. We fell into an easy routine. Breakfast together, trips to the park, evening movies on the couch. Mary adapted quickly to my house, claimed the spare bedroom as her own, and seemed genuinely happy to be there. For the first week and a half, everything was perfect. The trouble began during the second week of her stay. We attended a charity bake sale at the local church. Afterward, Mary came to me and said an old lady had given her a doll. It was antique, beautiful pale porcelain face, blue eyes, a sweet fixed smile. She has pretty hair, Mary said. She smiles at me. Mary named the doll Isabella and carried it with her everywhere for the next few days. She had tea parties with it, told it stories, even insisted on setting a place for it at the dinner table. I thought it was sweet, the kind of innocent attachment that children form with their favorite toys. But then strange things started happening. At first, it was small things. I'd leave my reading glasses on the coffee table and find them in the kitchen. My car keys would migrate from the hook by the door to the bathroom counter. Books would be moved from one shelf to another. I chalked it up to absent-mindedness. Living alone for 15 years will make you a creature of habit, and any disruption to your routine can throw you off balance. But then the incidents became more pronounced. Doors that I knew I had left open would be closed when I returned to a room. The bathroom door would be locked from the inside, even though no one was in there, and I'd have to use a screwdriver to pop the lock. The kitchen faucet would be running full blast in the middle of the night. The radio in Mary's room would turn on by itself, always tuned to static. I told myself I was imagining things, or that Mary was just testing limits. When Mary returned home, she left the doll with me. She said, "I don't like her anymore. She's mean." After Mary's parents picked her up, I put Isabella away in the drawer of my bedroom dresser. I figured that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The first time I heard the running, I thought I was imagining things again. It was 3 days after Mary had gone home, and I was sitting in my living room watching the evening news when I heard it. Quick footsteps racing back and forth in the spare bedroom. Light, rapid steps, exactly like Mary's when she was excited about something. For a moment, my heart lifted. Maybe her parents had brought her back for a surprise visit. Maybe she'd forgotten something important and they'd driven over to get it. But then I remembered. Mary's parents lived 2 hours away, and they would have called first. And besides, I would have heard the car in the driveway, would have heard them knock on the door. The footsteps continued, back and forth across the bedroom floor, accompanied by what sounded like furniture being moved around. I muted the television and listened more carefully. Definitely footsteps. Definitely in Mary's old room. I called out, "Mary? Is that you, sweetheart?" The footsteps stopped immediately. I waited for a response, but the house had gone completely silent. Even the normal settling sounds seemed to have stopped, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I got up from the couch and walked slowly down the hallway, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. The door to Mary's room was closed. I always kept it open when no one was staying there, but there was no light coming from underneath. Hello? I called softly, my hand on the doorknob. Nothing. I turned the handle and pushed the door open. The room was exactly as I'd left it after Mary's departure. Bed neatly made, dresser cleared of her belongings, curtains drawn against the evening darkness. There was no one there. But as I stood in the doorway, confused and trying to rationalize what I'd heard, the door suddenly swung shut behind me with such force that the whole house seemed to shake. I heard the distinct click of the lock engaging, even though that door didn't have a lock. I grabbed the handle and twisted, but it wouldn't budge. The door was solid wood, heavy and well made, and no matter how hard I pulled or pushed, it remained firmly closed. "This is ridiculous," I said aloud, more to calm myself than because I expected an answer. That's when I heard it. Soft, delighted giggling coming from somewhere on the other side of the door. A child's laughter, light and musical, and completely impossible. I pressed my ear against the wood, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The giggling continued for another few seconds, then faded away like an echo. I don't know how long I stood there, my ear pressed to the door, waiting for some other sound that might explain what was happening. It felt like hours, but was probably only minutes before the door suddenly clicked open again, swinging wide as if nothing had happened. The hallway beyond was empty and normal, but I could smell something that hadn't been there before, the faint scent of old fabric and dusty porcelain. The next morning, I found Isabella sitting upright on my dining room table, her painted eyes staring directly at the kitchen doorway. I had no memory of taking her out of the drawer, and I certainly hadn't positioned her so carefully. I chalked it up to sleepwalking. I'd never done it before, but stress can manifest in strange ways. I put her back in the drawer, this time wedging the drawer shut with a book. That night, I woke up to the sound of running footsteps in my hallway. Quick, light steps, like a child racing from room to room. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep beside my bed and crept out to investigate. But the house was empty and silent. Every door was closed, every window was locked, and there was no sign that anyone had been inside. But when I checked the dresser drawer, it was empty. And when I went to the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea to calm my nerves, I found Isabella sitting on the counter next to the coffee maker, surrounded by the contents of every cabinet and drawer in the room. Dishes, utensils, fruit containers, cleaning supplies, everything scattered across the floor in chaotic piles. It took me 3 hours to clean up the mess. The next day, I drove Isabella to the Goodwill Donation Center and left her in one of their collection boxes. I didn't even stay to watch them process the donation. I just wanted her out of my life. That night, I woke up to a sound like thunder coming from my living room. The crash was so loud it shook the windows and set my cat racing under the bed. I grabbed my phone and my bat and crept down the hallway, expecting to find that a tree had fallen through my roof, or that someone had driven their car through my front wall. What I found was worse. Every piece of furniture in my living room had been destroyed. The coffee table's legs had been snapped off, and the top split down the middle. The couch had been shredded, stuffing scattered everywhere like snow. My bookshelf had been tipped over, sending books cascading across the floor. The television lay face down in a spider web of cracked screen glass. Even the houseplants had been uprooted and thrown against the walls. And there, sitting on the windowsill overlooking the destruction like a tiny queen surveying her domain, was Isabella. Her lace dress was pristine, her golden ringlets were perfectly arranged, and her painted smile seemed wider somehow, more satisfied. I called the police, of course, but what was I supposed to tell them? That an antique doll had broken into my house and destroyed my living room? They took a report and suggested I upgrade my home security system. The insurance adjuster was equally baffled. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no logical explanation for the destruction. But I knew. That's when I found your blog, Mr. Holloway. I spent hours reading about your cases, your methods, your rational approach to seemingly irrational problems. I know what I'm asking is wrong. I know I have no right to pass this burden on to someone else. But I'm terrified that the next incident will be the last one for me. Isabella is getting stronger, more aggressive, and I don't think my house can survive another night like the last one. You'll find her in the package I've sent. I've done everything I can to contain her, but I suspect it won't hold for long. I'm sorry, Mr. Holloway. I'm sorry for what I'm doing to you and I hope you can find a way to stop this that I couldn't. Please forgive me. S. I set the letter down and stared at the package sitting on my kitchen table. In my line of work, you develop instincts about these things. A kind of sixth sense that tells you when you're dealing with something genuinely dangerous versus someone's overactive imagination. Odds are, it was someone's attempt at unloading something cursed, or merely believed cursed. Still, I've walked into rooms older than churches, seen things older than cities. I didn't jump at the possibility based on a child's doll and a panicked letter. But the trap of curiosity snapped tight when I looked at that heavy package again. I should have researched the doll, tried to find out where it had really come from, and what kind of history it might have. I should have approached this methodically, scientifically, the way I always do. Instead, I found myself reaching for my utility knife. The package was indeed wrapped with an almost obsessive amount of tape. Layer upon layer of clear packing tape that had been wound around the box so many times it looked like a cocoon. It took me 20 minutes to cut through it all, and by the time I was done, my kitchen counter was covered with long strips of adhesive plastic. Inside the cardboard box was another container, this one made of wood. The wooden box had been bound with rope, thick maritime cord that had been tied with complex knots and then tied again. Someone had put a lot of effort into making sure this particular container stayed closed. As I worked to untie the ropes, I found myself thinking about the description of Isabella, the perfect ringlets, the dress, the painted smile. Antique dolls have always unsettled me. There's something about their fixed expressions and glassy eyes that seems to suggest they're watching you, even when you're not looking at them. Add to that the stories of supernatural activity, and you have all the ingredients for a classic haunting case. The rope finally came away in my hands. I set it aside and lifted the wooden box's lid, expecting to see the doll S had described in such detail. The box was empty. If this sort of thing keeps you up at night, you might want to subscribe. There's always more buried in the archives. And if there's a story you're looking for, drop it in the comments. Odds are, I've already got a file with your name on it, just haven't dusted it off yet.